This is actually my first time to be at University of Amsterdam. I've been to Amsterdam, but never the university. This is first time, and I'm grateful. I'm honored with the opportunity, and thank you for making it happen. Bu Vera, Pak Sandi, for connecting us with our colleague here at the university. The issue reinventing democracy, and I'm trying to put my academic hat here because I was participating in the democratic process a few months ago, well, almost a year by now, and we have been facing with a few challenges. But let me share some of my thought about democracy, youth, power, and integrity. And this is a reflection. As reflections that allow me to go through some of my thought on those subjects. Let me start with the tensions that in Indonesia today we have a whole generations that has lived only under democracy, the youth. They grew up with elections. They grew up with social media debates, protests, and freedom of speech as something that is normal because they grew up with it. At the same time, this is why it's a tension. On the one hand, you have this generation. On the other hand, the quality of our democracy has been quietly eroding for almost a decade. Things like independence of institutions, anti-corruption works, civic space. Scholars call it as democratic backsliding. So you see this tension today. And the surprising part of this is that Indonesia's Gen Zs says that they are satisfied with our democracy. This is our youth, we're saying. Even when the system is weakened, and researchers, it's just published a month ago, describe them as complacent Democrats. They say democracy is good, but they feel little urgency to defend it. And in the survey done last year, 2024, we have large portions of the youth, according to that survey, would choose strongman image, even if it's linked to possible authoritarian, without having reservation. So what I want to ask and would like to invite you to think together is a serious questions. What keeps democracy alive when a new generations feel democracy is permanent? Democracy can be taken for granted, even when the quality of our democracy were eroding. So allow me on these reflections to share my argument. There are three parts to this argument. One, the youth in Indonesia holds historic moral power, and it still does, since the old days. Today is the 27th, and 28th of October we are celebrating, commemorating the Sumpah Pemuda, the youth oath. Again, so the youth has hold historic moral power. But the second argument is that moral power alone is never enough. We also need integrity in how power is exercised, how power is being used. And the third argument that I'd like to share on this reflection is reinventing democracy means combining: 1, integrity; 2, participations; 3, shared prosperity across generations, Not just by telling young people, please fix what we broke. We means the previous generations, the older generations. So those are three arguments that I'd like to share with you on these reflections. Now let me start with youth and power in Indonesia. And I would call it as a journey from moral force to governing force. In Indonesia, we grew up with the story of pemuda, young people, as the conscience of our nations. Let's remember a few milestones. 1928, it's the youth that get together and able to form an idea of one nation and able to agree upon one common language. Without that, all this diversity that we have will not be integrated into the feeling of oneness being Indonesia. And it gave us a milestone and a foundations how we strengthen the togetherness given the diversity that we have. And it was a genius breakthrough in 1928. And then in 98, which is about 70 years later, it's the student and the civil society activists, which is mostly young people as well, push to end an authoritarian regime in Indonesia. And they open up a democratic era in 98. 70 years later. Now in 2019, 2020, we have seen student activists, labor groups, environmental groups again filled our street to protest legal changes that was happening that weaken our democratic institutions, that weaken anti-corruption effort, and
Halo teman-teman, berjumpa bersama saya di Politik Dangi. Ya, ini luar biasa ya. Bagaimana Anies Baswedan memberikan ilmu, berbagi ilmu di universitas di Amsterdam, teman-teman, Belanda. Ini luar biasa. Kalau kita melihat ya, sepak terjang Anies ini sangat-sangat di luar dugaan, teman-teman. Sangat-sangat hebat ya, sangat-sangat membuat kita terkagum-kagum bagaimana beliau menjadi seorang politikus, bahkan seorang dosen yang bukan ecek-ecek ya. Beliau ini memang sangat-sangat kaya akan ilmu, karir yang sangat moncreng ya. Kali ini Anies Baswedan memberikan kuliah di Amsterdam, teman-teman. Ini sangat hebat ya. Ya, jarang sekali orang Indonesia yang menjadi dosen di luar negeri, teman-teman. Karena kalau kita melihat ya, Anies adalah salah satu orang yang beruntung tersebut ya. Bahkan kehebatan Anies membuat publik terkagum-kagum ya. Kalau kita melihat, kalau kita bandingkan dengan anak-anak Mulyono, teman-teman, ini jauh sekali berbedanya ya. Kalau kita bandingkan dengan Gibran misalnya, ini jauh sekali ya. Apalagi Pak Jokowi yang bukan latar belakang seorang dosen, teman-teman ya, ini jauh sekali juga, teman-teman. Indonesia butuh sosok pemimpin seperti Anies yang kemudian sebagai pemimpin bisa, menjadi dosen pun bisa. Ini kan luar biasa ya. Dan kalau kita melihat, teman-teman, bagaimana Anies ya, bukan hanya di luar negeri, Anies juga berbagi ilmu di Indonesia ya. Anies juga menjadi pengajar di sekolah-sekolah, dan ini luar biasa. Anies juga bergerak di bidang sosial, bagaimana organisasi yang ia kerjakan, yang ia buat. Bahkan kalau kita melihat bagaimana Anies Baswedan ya membuat sebuah gerakan bersama, aksi bersama ya untuk membangun fasilitas umum seperti jembatan ya di Indonesia yang mungkin itu belum dapat akses, teman-teman. Jadi Anies membangun hal tersebut. Itu kan sebuah hal yang luar biasa. Dan kalau kita melihat bagaimana Anies juga membangun eh, ormas gerakan rakyat yang jadi cikal bakal partainya. Ini kan juga sebuah gerakan yang sangat hebat ya. Butuh sosok yang sangat cerdik, sangat pintar, sangat berpengaruh yang bisa membuat seperti ini, teman-teman. Itulah kenapa kita sangat kagum dengan apa yang dikerjakan oleh Anies Baswedan ya. Dan kemudian bagaimana kalau kita melihatnya, itulah kenapa Anies Baswedan selalu saja menjadi apa namanya dijegal ya, tidak disukai, kesalahannya selalu saja dicari. Padahal beliau ini sangat-sangat cerdas, sangat pintar, teman-teman, sangat berintegritas. Beberapa kali ya setelah menjadi bukan jadi gubernur Jakarta yang lalu ya, bagaimana ia selalu diperiksa oleh KPK dan kemudian tidak ada melakukan kesalahan apapun ya, tidak ada Anies ditersangkakan sebagainya. Itu membuktikan bahwa ia memang tidak eh, kompromi dengan kejahatan ya. Artinya dia tidak melakukan korupsi dan sebagainya. Namun Anies bahkan teman-teman menjadi apa namanya menjadi contoh pejabat yang jujur dalam bekerja. Bagaimana menurut kalian?